What were the most dangerous jobs in medieval times? Could you survive? The medieval period, often romanticized for its knights, castles, and chivalry, was also a time of immense hardship, particularly for those who had to earn their living through grueling and hazardous work. While modern-day jobs can be challenging, the dangers faced by workers in the Middle Ages were far more severe, often involving life-threatening risks with little to no safety measures in place. Let's explore some of the most perilous jobs in medieval times, offering insight into the harsh realities faced by those who performed these tasks. From the filthy work of the gong farmer to the isolated life of the executioner, these occupations were not only physically demanding but also carried significant social stigmas and psychological burdens. Could you survive these dangerous medieval jobs? Gong farmer, a life in filth. One of the most dangerous and revolting jobs in medieval times was that of the gong farmer. The term gong referred to human excrement, and the gong farmer's job was to clean out the cesspits and latrines of medieval towns and cities. This was work that no one else wanted to do, and for good reason. The job involved wading through human waste, often knee-deep or deeper, with only rudimentary tools to help clear out the cesspits. The health hazards associated with this job were immense. Gong farmers were constantly exposed to bacteria and diseases that thrived in these unsanitary conditions. Cholera, dysentery, and other infections were rampant, and the risk of contracting a life-threatening illness was high. Moreover, the social stigma attached to the job was severe. Gong farmers were often ostracized and forced to live on the outskirts of towns, away from the general population. Despite the dangers and the social isolation, gong farmers were vital to maintaining public health in medieval cities, yet their work was deeply undervalued and shunned by society. Treadmill operator, the weight of labor. Another grueling and dangerous occupation was that of the treadmill operator. Treadmills in medieval times were not the exercise machines we know today. Instead, they were large, wheel-like structures that humans powered by walking or running inside them. These treadmills were used to drive machinery in mills, draw water from deep wells, or even as a form of punishment for prisoners. Operating a treadmill was physically exhausting and dangerous. The intense labor required to keep the wheel moving could cause severe muscle strain, exhaustion, and even death if the worker collapsed from fatigue. In some cases, if the treadmill was used for punishment, the operator would be forced to continue until they could no longer stand, leading to broken bones or fatal injuries. The repetitive, monotonous nature of the work, combined with the ever-present risk of injury, made treadmill operation one of the most feared jobs of the medieval period. Quarryman, risking life for stone. The life of a medieval quarryman was fraught with danger. Quarrymen were responsible for extracting stone used in the construction of cathedrals, castles, and other large structures. This work required brute strength and the ability to handle heavy tools such as hammers and chisels. Quarrymen worked in steep, unstable environments where rockfalls were a constant threat. The physical demands of the job were immense, and the risks were ever present. A sudden rockslide could easily crush a worker, while the constant strain on the body from lifting and chiseling large stones often led to long-term injuries. The dust generated by quarrying also posed serious health risks, leading to respiratory problems that could shorten a worker's life. Despite these dangers, quarrymen were essential to the construction of the monumental buildings that have come to symbolize the medieval period. Plague Doctor, the front line of the Black Death. Perhaps one of the most iconic and terrifying figures of the medieval period was the Plague Doctor. During the Black Death, which swept through Europe in the 14th century, killing millions, plague doctors were tasked with treating those afflicted by the disease. Dressed in long coats, gloves, and the infamous beaked masks filled with aromatic herbs to ward off bad air, these doctors were often the last line of defense against the plague. The dangers faced by plague doctors were extreme. Despite their protective clothing, many still contracted the plague and died from it. the treatments they administered were often ineffective, and the psychological toll of working with dying patients, coupled with the constant fear of infection, made this job one of the most harrowing of the medieval period. Plague doctors were both feared and respected, but their work came at a high personal cost. Miner, buried alive. Mining in the medieval period was another occupation that carried significant risks. Miners worked deep underground in dark, cramped conditions, extracting valuable minerals such as silver, gold, and coal. The tools they used were primitive, consisting of pickaxes, shovels, and simple lamps for lighting. The dangers they faced included cave-ins, toxic gases, and long-term health issues caused by inhaling dust and fumes. Cave-ins were a constant threat, as the supports used to hold up the tunnels were often inadequate. A single shift in the earth could bury a miner alive, with little hope of rescue. The darkness and isolation of the mines also took a psychological toll on workers, who spent long hours in these oppressive conditions. Despite the dangers, mining was a necessary industry, providing the raw materials that fueled the medieval economy. Executioner, the weight of death. The role of the executioner was one of the most feared and socially isolating jobs in medieval times. Executioners were responsible for carrying out capital punishments, including beheadings, hangings, and burnings. While the job required a certain level of skill and precision, it also came with significant moral and psychological burdens. Executioners were often shunned by society, as their job was seen as both necessary and repulsive. They lived on the fringes of society, avoided by those who feared them or despised their work. The psychological toll of regularly taking lives, combined with the public spectacle of executions, could lead to a sense of deep isolation and guilt. Executioners were sometimes feared as much as the criminals they executed, making their role one of the most challenging and dangerous in medieval society. The medieval period was marked by harsh realities and dangerous occupations that would be unthinkable in today's world. The jobs of gong farmers, treadmill operators, quarrymen, plague doctors, miners, and executioners were fraught with physical danger, social stigma, and psychological strain. These workers faced life-threatening risks daily, often with little reward or recognition for their efforts. While modern occupational safety standards have dramatically reduced the dangers associated with most jobs, the experiences of these medieval workers serve as a stark reminder of the challenges faced by those who lived in a much harsher and more dangerous time. Could you have survived these medieval jobs? For many, the answer would likely be no. Thanks for listening. Like and comment. And please subscribe, as that will help us get more videos out to those interested in the Middle Ages. See you next time on Medieval Chronicles 1066. Stay curious.